All right, welcome back to Q Hoops. We just got finished recording my basketball journey story, so that will be coming up shortly. But now let's just get into pretty much the actual basketball content. So let's hoop. Let's talk hoops. So now we're just gonna pretty much get into Game One of the NBA Finals between the Miami Heat, the 8 seed Heat, who've overcome the Bucks, the Knicks, and the Celtics against the 1 seed Nuggets, who've been consistent the whole pretty much season. They got through the Timberwolves, the Suns, and Lakers. So it's like this is a great thing to see. But before we get into all that, I'm gonna tell a quick story, kind of like my final story. Get into when I started first watching basketball. But make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you just tune in the Q where we just talk basketball, strictly basketball, no narrative driven things, none of that. So before we get into the finals, before we get into the finals game one and recap it, just tell my story about how my first finals I watched. So when I first started watching basketball, it was around, if I remember, 2010, 2011. So this is when LeBron just went to Miami and Kobe just won his fifth and his fortunate last championship. He couldn't tie Jordan. So I remember I didn't really watch the game. I just remember that was the first finals I was actually like looking at briefly. So it was Miami against Dallas. It was LeBron and Wade and Bosh versus Dirk, Kid and Terry. And I wouldn't have thought Dallas would have been there. Like as a kid, like I knew Miami was going to get there because like it's LeBron, Wade, and Bosh as a kid. You just think, okay, you just throw those names together, that's enough to get to the championship. Now I know differently, but that was the first finals where I was like, this is really entertaining to watch. And then I just kept watching, and we had, the Heat Thunder. The one I really tuned into the most was the Heat and Spurs. That was really my first final because I was watching every game. From game one, where um, Tony Parker was hitting some crazy shots against the Heat, LeBron and block on splitter, Ray Allen's corner three, and then from there I just kept watching. Then we get to LeBron back in Cleveland, the Golden State ones, and then the one I always just enjoyed was, Game 7, the Warriors and Cavs, because that game was like I was working with my dad over the summer, helping him out with FedEx St. Jude, volunteering over there, and then getting ready to help him over there, and then to come home for Game 7. It's the biggest game. I was like, being in this moment is just some, even just not even from a player, from a fan, being at the game, commentating that game like your Mark Jackson, Mike Breen, and Jeff Van Gundy, just being a media personality, just being in the atmosphere, that's got to be truly a great feeling. But forget all that. Let's just get on to the recap final. So, game one, let's just get to the Nuggets won 104 to 93. And looking at the game starting now, because, the first game, every game is a fill-out game. And everybody was talking about how this finals is probably going to be boring. Nobody's going to tune in. But, I mean, if you're a basketball savant, you're a fan, student of the game, this is a great series because you see a well-oiled machine in Denver. Because, like, you look at teams and you look at, you have the LeBron type teams that are led by that one guy. Then you have, the Warriors with the way they play with Steph and Clay and them. And then you have the well-oiled machines, like the ones you don't really consider threats and favorites, but it's like when I watch Denver, before we get into like the breakdown and all that, when I watched Denver, the thing that surprised me about them was I didn't really watch them during the regular season because I just saw they were consistent. Because it's just like they're not a exciting team in terms of basketball to watch because they don't do really a lot of highlight plays. They're like the 2014 Spurs. They're like the Warriors before they got Kevin Durant. They really like the Mavericks where you have that one star in Jokic, and you have the great supporting cast in Murray, who's up there from skill level. He's up there with the Currys, the Lillards, the Irvins, but he just doesn't have the recognition and accolades. Michael Porter Jr., who's went through like what 3 different surgeries, and he's still here, and he's been a valuable piece to Denver. Aaron Gordon, who we just knew from the dunk contest as a high flying machine. Then he was, an Uncle Drew. Quenterious Caldwell Pope, what he was doing with the Lakers, Bruce Brown, the growth he's had, Jeff Green, who's been a part of many teams that had to, fight through, I think, some in his heart, going through that to get this moment. Michael Malone, who I'm sure a lot of people probably in Denver might have wanted fired. Not saying everybody did. Not saying a Denver fan wanted, but probably would have got fired under a certain different ownership. But and then Calvin Booth getting moved to the president role after the guy from left to go to Minnesota. So it was like this is a well-oiled machine, and they were my pick to start the playoffs when it started outside of Lakers. So I know I'm biased pick to really get to the finals because I was like, they have Porter, they have Murray this year because the last 2 years Jokic won MVP. Without those guys, he was still doing the best he could. But I'm like, he's gonna get tired because bigs get tired easily. They can't do it all. Even with Jokic's ability as a point center, being a focal point, he can't do it all. He just can't. One man can't beat a team, a 5-man team. So watching last night, it was like really watching Jokic game because like I didn't really watch a lot of Jokic. The crazy part is he was a part of the 2014 draft, and that was the time I was really getting into basketball like that. Like then I had I didn't even know who he was. Like didn't know who he was till he started really growing and going into the NBA scene. And just the way he moves across the court, he doesn't force anything. He has that passer mentality. Like it's hard to compare to any person because he gives you the Adrius Sabonis, he gives you the Keem a little bit. He just gives you every great center there's been, but he doesn't force the game in no way. He makes the right pass. He shoots the shot beautifully. His footwork's impeccable. It's like everything about his game is just fluid. And it's just great to see that they surround him with not just shooters, but shot makers. Like, there's a difference between shooters and shot makers. Like, a shooter, it's a rhythm thing. Like, you have Quenterious Mabone, who's more of a 3-and-D, but he's just not shooting threes like most people is. So he's just not like a robot where he's just shooting threes. He's moving across the court. He's getting layups. He's taking pull-ups. And he's, even he had 7 points. But you would have thought, like, he was great for this team because he has those key shots, those key moments at the right time when the Nuggets need it. But you think about what Jokic was, he had 10 and 10 at the end of the first half. He didn't take a single shot to like late in the first quarter when, if I remember, he poked the ball out of Cody Zeller's hand and Aaron Gordon passed it back to him. The first play of the game, they were fronting him in the post. Bam out of ball, front of post. We don't know, like, basically Jokic is right here and Bam is front of the post. So like smaller defenders were always taught to front the post. And then you have the backside help to assist you to make it easy. Kind of similar to what the Lakers were doing, where they had Rui Hachimura on Jokic, but instead of Rui being in front of Jokic, he was behind him, and then Anthony Davis is on the weak side. So in the case like for the Heat, it would be Caleb Martin or Jimmy Butler, who was playing the free safety role. So those different things like that. He finished with 27, Jokic, 27, 10, and 14. That's crazy to think that a big man has those type of stats. And a lot of people might say that's stat pad. Well, no, it's not because you look at his game. He doesn't even stat pad. He's the type of guy that you go to the rec center, and go to the gym, and he knows his teammates so well. He knows where they're going to be. It's just like 5 fingers on a hand. He's the thumb, and he knows when this guy is going to move. He knows when this guy's moving. It's just like he's got eyes in the back of his head. So that's just impressive to me. And I got to give a lot of props to the game because I didn't really watch a lot of his game beforehand. But he really showed like why he is really the best center in the league. Like, because at one point I was always on Embiid, saying Embiid because Embiid defends it. But I was like, I watched Jokic defend Anthony Davis and these guys. Like, he's an underrated defender. He's not a guy like Bam and AD where he's a hybrid center where he can defend 1 through 5. But he's just good. He's smart defending in the post. And then I think if it was Draymond Green, if I remember on his podcast, he was talking about how he was telling him some certain things defensively to do better, and how Jokic gave him props saying you may be a better defender. It's like being a sponge just from tearing Draymond Green, who bested you last year in the finals, and he's one of the big reasons for why we have a lot of these small ball fours. But his ability to defend fives is just impeccable because of his IQ of the game. It's just crazy, but it's crazy watching. And he played 40 minutes. He had 27, 10, and 14, and a lot of those shots he took, they didn't even seem like he had a lot of touches in the paint. He had one where Murray had the ball, and then Porter drove in, and Porter bounced past to him, and he just picked it up like that. And then, his threes, the way he shoots, it's crazy. And then the 1-2 game between Jamal. Like, Jamal Murray is that guy. Like, people were kind of shocked to see this. Like, but since the bubble, he's shown it. He's on the same skill, talent level as Kyrie, Steph, Damon. I mean, he just doesn't have the recognition accolades like they do. And then it's Denver. Like, Denver's not that city where we're like, oh, this is that. But Jamal Murray's been there. I mean, the guy can meditate himself to near death and do that. And especially against the Lakers, he was doing it. But that game, he came out beginning setting the tone. Attacking the basket, the mid-range, getting to the free throw line, dotting the guys up. And the thing about what makes the Nuggets scary to me is if you notice with their 1-2 game with Jokic and Murray, you see a lot of pick and roll with them. But it's not like at first when I was watching them against the Lakers, it was more reminding me of Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, where Tim is like the swing axe, where Tim Duncan gets the ball, keep it up, Tony runs around and he dumps it off. But then I also thought, okay, Stockton Malone, because Stockton Malone always dominated on the left side. Stockton set the screen, Malone here, and then where the logo would be on the floor. That's the Malone spot, as most people would say. The thing about those two is they can be either. They can either be either of them can be Stockton Malone. Like Murray can be the screener, Jokic can be the guy, the ball handler, and vice versa. And they're so skilled it's to the point where it's like if you're the Miami Heat, how can you honestly defend that? Because if you and Miami basically play drop coverage, where the point where if they're in a pick and roll, Jokic can float it up, jumper, and then if you double, like a lot of times the Miami Heat did in the series, like he's gonna make you pay. That's a hard thing to stop, and then you're undersized in this matchup. So it's like I'm trying to think basketball wise, what can you do to limit them? Because like at one point, it's like Draymond said, if you're gonna play Jokic, are you gonna let him be a scorer or are you gonna let him be a passer? You can't let him be both. And I'm thinking, okay, so let they just let him play 1-on-1 with Bam Adebayo. So let's just say Jokic in the post. Well, he's not a willing scorer. He's more of a passer. He's a pass first type of guy. So if he goes 1-on-1, then he gets in his rhythm. But it's to the point where if Bam can put enough pressure on him to tire him out, then maybe he'll get fatigue and have some fatigue moments where okay, he's scoring 2 points. We can get 3 on the other end, or we can keep it back to back. But at some point, you're fighting the scoreboard when you do that. But you rather live with that, knowing that you're forcing Jokic to kind of do that, and that's what teams are able to do. Like the Warriors in the postseason last year, they were able to make Jokic do that, where he had to play 1-on-1 against Draymond. Basically against Draymond, and Draymond sometimes win the match, and then when it came to the end, Jokic was so gassed that Draymond just from here mentally he's like, I got him. Y'all don't help, stay home. And then the thing about the Nuggets, they have some great shooters. You have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope who shoots well. Michael Porter Jr. 6'10", shoots the ball well. Jamal Murray. The only person on that floor that isn't a shooter is Aaron Gordon. But even then, you have to respect him for what he did. And I'm going to get to his performance in a minute. It's just like they're a well-oiled machine from a basketball standpoint. I don't understand. They're a hard team to stop because it's not like they're doing layups and threes. They're doing all these sets, the curls, the screens, the off-ball movement. And it's not even like it's getting in each other's way. It's like they know each other so well that like a lot of plays where Miami was Bam was at the paint, like Jamal Murray had a backdoor cut. Gabe Vince was getting picked on where Aaron Gordon dominated. Michael Porter Jr., who nobody on the floor other than probably Bam and Butler can really stop him. Like I said, Caldwell Pope, he could have had more because a lot of times he did get fouled on a lot of his layups and stuff, but they weren't calling. But it was like that's how it was. But their game is just their 1-2 game is scary. And this is a group that they really can be in the finals for the next, 2-3 years because everybody's on the contract next season. The only guy that's not is I'm gonna get to is Bruce Brown. But other guys, Aaron Gordon. The one thing about Aaron Gordon last series was he was a guy that, as Draymond Green said, you play off the floor. And LA was trying to do that. Where Aaron Gordon was becoming this, spot up where he on, defensive end, he was taking on the LeBron, the KD matchup. But offensively, he was just sitting in the corner. If he had a smaller guy like D'Angelo Russell or Dennis Schroeder, per se, he would tag a paint. And this game, he did that. He came out and attacked. If you remember when Miami played Denver, that I think they ran like 40 post, I think like 30 or 40 post ups, and Denver scored like 37, 40 something points on them when Aaron Gordon post up because there's nobody on that Heat team outside of Bam and Jimmy that can put a threat on him because he's just stronger, athletic, and they're like you see the difference in bringing him in and then what you had in Paul Millsap, who was great, but he was older. Paul wasn't as athletic as Aaron Gordon was. He wasn't shooting the ball like Aaron Gordon was. So with him, it was kind of that little finesse and grace. With Gordon, you have the little bit of the power, a little bit of finesse, and it's just a hard thing in this short role because he's not a guy that plays the dunker spot. He can knock down shots, and you see with Denver, they have different guys. Murray might bring the ball up. In that game, a lot he was calling his own. He's telling Mike Malone like, "Hey, feed me in the post because if they're gonna switch Gabe Vincent on me and put him in pick and roll, or Taylor Martin's gonna be on me, or Max Schure's gonna be on me, I'm going to punish him every single time." And that right there showed me like right then and there they're a team because they've overcome every single thing that people throw at them. Michael Porter Jr. was great. Defensively, he had 2 blocks. And that's one of the things with him that was a question mark was can he be good defensively? Because at 6'10", he has the size. It was the play, I'm trying to remember, where I think it was Duncan Robinson, and he blew past him. And he was able just to get there with his size and not giving up on the play, getting there. That was great to see. And he had 13 boards. Like, he had more rebounds than Aaron Gordon. He had more rebounds than Jokic. So that really shows you how engaged. And this is the guy that he had there's 3 different surgeries. He has a brace that's like some brace that's used for some I can't remember what type of patients, but that's a great story to hear from Michael Porter Jr. And I'm happy to see him because he is a great player. Um, Bruce Brown was great as he's always been, knocking down floaters, making shots, and he had 10 points. One person I do want to highlight from Denver, Jeff Green was great as well when Miami did go zone. Instead of putting Gordon at the 5, Green was great because he's seen it plenty of times. He was able to pick it apart a little bit. One person I do want to give credit to from the Nuggets that probably didn't get much. He played 8 minutes was Christian Braun. He had some great defensive stops. He had picked up foul trouble early on in the first half, but in 8 minutes he played great. He had a play where he out hustled Gabe Vincent, and that was a championship play. And like you think about that, you're a rookie in the NBA, and this is your first year, and you got a chance to win NBA Finals. That play right there gets you paid because it shows you that no matter who the opponent is, I'm not going to give up on the play. Even though it was out of bounds, he could have literally picked it up and laid it up. But it's like you saw the dedication because last series he didn't even play as much against the Lakers because they were just bigger and stronger than him, and he really wasn't posing a threat. But in 8 minutes, he was, ultimately solid. And he had to give credit to Denver, even with the veterans not playing. Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan, Thomas Bryant, who, left the Lakers to go there. Ish Smith, like the guys, none of these guys have a championship. And some of them don't even have a finals appearance, but they really look like this better overall team. So, and like I said, my prediction in this series, I had them winning in 6 because I still think Miami can get a game or 2. But the way they were playing those first 3 quarters was just great. The only downside to Denver was they got to be careful with the leads fourth quarter because when the fourth quarter started, Miami started putting the pressure on them a little bit, and they went on an 8-0 run. And it's like Mike Malone said, we can't pick and choose for 48 minutes. We got to play our hearts out because the spur of the moment, momentum can shift. Just it's like it can shift that fast. And at some point, you kind of thought like I was thinking, is this going to be like the Lakers game 1, where they trim it down, and they did. But late in the game, Denver responded. That it kind of shows you how far they've come from the bubble because in the bubble, remember they were down 3-1 twice, and they came back. Then they lost to the Lakers in 5. And then you saw what they would come. So they were able to come through as a group adversity. When adversity hit them the most, they're able to respond in different ways. But I just like how even with Jokic having 10 and 10, he had 27, 10 and 14. He he can have an off night or not even be the focal point of the team, and they still can win. And that comes down to just their team overall. But then really Jamal Murray, because his shot creating has been off the chain. The shots he makes, the shots he takes, it's like it is really a scary sight to see. Next, I want to get into Miami before we kind of close out. And then we'll have another video where we get into Game 2 because Game 2 is on Sunday, I believe. It's Sunday at 7 Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. Eastern or Central time. It's one of those things. But Miami, they've overcame everything. They overcame the Bucks, they overcame the Knicks, and they overcame the Celtics. And they fought hard in this game because I think at the end of the first quarter, they were only down like 7 or 8. So the thing about Miami is they never give up and they never stop playing. So that's the one thing you got to give it to them. But the main thing is they did good in this game. I got to give it to them is I think they won the rebounding battle. So they were winning. I think they won the rebounding battle. So they stayed in the fight, or they lost maybe by like point or two. I can't check. Trying to look at the stats now and see. But they were in the rebounding battle with Denver because that was the one thing the Lakers struggled to do against Denver was rebound the ball, but they did a great job staying in rebound. I think they had more offensive rebounds than them. Transition defense was great. Like that's another thing with Lakers they just couldn't do. And Miami was staying in transition. Like Duncan Robinson had a play. I think it was Bruce Brown was attacking, and Duncan Robinson just moved his feet, stayed in front, kept his hands up, and he, did a great job. doing it. And then the turnovers. They only had 8 turnovers. Denver had more turnovers. So it's like Miami really still has a chance in this series. And with those 3 things, they really can got some to figure out. Now, the biggest thing with Miami was what I questioned about them this season was shot making and shooting because when they're on, and when they're off. And tonight was example. And that, plays it out too, fatigue. Because remember, they won Monday and they only had, 2-3 days to rest before the finals started, where Denver had like, a whole week. So you would expect the fatigue to kick in. But Max Strus, he's struggling to make shots. Um, Duncan Robinson struggled. Kyle Lowry had 11. Vincent had 19. Caleb Martin, the unsung hero, he had 3. But the only guy really did something in Miami was really, Bam. He had 26-13. And to that, it looked pedestrian because of what Jokic did. Because, Bam, from a physical standpoint, was front of the post every time he was on Jokic. So, and then in the pick and roll with Gabe Vincent or Butler, he was hitting the floaters and stuff like that. So it's like that's the one thing with Bam that kind of always questioned about him was his aggressiveness. And he's taking a bigger step with this group. I got to give him props. And that's the one thing I think a lot of people in Denver was like, he ain't got to worry about him. But he was killing them. Like, if Miami can do the same things that Denver did, like in that pick and roll action, if you can force Jokic to move defensively, it's kind of a hard thing because if Bam can just make that jump, because that's the one thing I say with Anthony Davis, he struggled to do against Denver was making them pay on the little short roll. Bam made them pay majority of the time. He had a putback dunk, I think, at the beginning of the game. As president, he played a great game defensively. I mean, he did the best he could on Jokic. It takes a team effort at the end of the day, and he's got to keep the aggression if they want to stay in chance. Jimmy, he had 13, 7, and 7. He had the first few buckets at the beginning of the game, but he really didn't have that, bullet game. But again, this is the beginning of the finals. He's been in this moment before. When Butler needs to step up, he's going to step up. This is the first game he's filling them out. So, but if they're going to win, he's going to have a better game. I think he's going to have to attack, find matchups that favor him, Jamal Murray and any guy on the floor that he knows is a mismatch. Getting downhill, just attacking. Because remember, they only had 2 free throws. And they just broke a record for the most attempted free throws in the finals. And the record was 3. They had 2. And the only free throws they had, if I remember, was when Gabe Vincent got fouled. They didn't attack the paint. They literally just shot the 3. Like Butler and Bam were trying to get the shooters at them. But it was like, you guys aren't going to be able to do that. Like Bam and Jimmy, y'all got to get going. And then everybody else get activated. Gabe Vincent had 19. He did a solid job. He ended up knocking down shots. Kyle Lowry had a solid game. Because a lot of his shots were short. But, Lowry, he's been in this moment before. He had 11, 5-5. He was trying to push the tempo really late in the game. And he was trying to communicate to a lot of times on the zone position. Because remember, Miami threw in some zones when Jokic was on the floor. And then late in the game, they threw in like a 2-1-2, like 2-2-1 type different zone. And I think it was one play with, Highsmith. He came in and he was great just for the few minutes he was in. And they had a little miscommunication. And Lowry was getting on guys like, we got to be better here. We got to be better on this different thing and that thing. And then that's just how it was. Haywood Highsmith, he had 18. And that's crazy thinking. A lot of his points, he had those 2 threes in the corner late in the game. And he's an underrated player, Jordan Miami. And you got to give props to Spoelstra and that crew for the undrafted guy. Not even just there being undrafted. Guys they got to step into their roles. Like, they maximize their potential so well. And it's not like it's like Butler's the main engine. Like, Butler will sacrifice his touches to get them going. And they had great looks tonight. They just couldn't hit. Am I shocked to see that? No, but it's like, this is going to be a hard thing for them to make shots really, in this series. Because got to give Denver's defense prop, because even though they had some open looks, like Denver's defense is disciplined. It gives you kind of like what the Spurs are like with their defense. Because I remember reading this from Kobe Bryant's book on Momentality. It's like the Spurs would fool you into thinking they were going to contest a shot, but they really were just going straight up. Because you saw a lot of the plays that Denver contested their shot. Some of them they were going straight up. They weren't gambling. They weren't, reaching in. They go straight up, make it look like they're contesting, but they're going straight up on defense. So props to that. So the questions I have more so for Miami, because the best quarter they had was the fourth quarter. They put pressure on everybody, and the Nuggets just letting their foot up the gas, but that was their best quarter. So zone might be their best bet. Not saying it's gonna work every time, but it might be the best thing you can do. So the question to have is, do you play Kevin Love? Because Kevin Love hadn't played, I think, since game 4 or 5 when he got hurt in Celtics, and pretty much he agreed with Spo saying that he wasn't gonna be a favorite. But do you throw in, Love for a body on Jokic? Like, do you do what the Lakers did, where you have Rui, like Love fronting Jokic the best he can, and just being a body for foul trouble? Because they're undersized. Like, Bam's the only guy that really was on Jokic. Butler tried his best, but Jokic is like 6'11", 7 foot. Butler's like 6'6", 6'7". So you take giving them like 4 inch height difference, and then like 20, 30 pounds. It's not really affecting him as much as you think. And again, Jokic, if you throw a double, and if the double is not quick, if it's not like he's right here and you're doubling fast, it's like he had one play, I think it was Butler was on him, and Highsmith came over, and Jokic swung that pass over to, I think it was Michael Porter Jr. in the corner, and Jr. side down the corner, just shot. I was like, that's a hard pass to make, even at your size. Like, that just takes your great IQ and what you have. So do you put in Love? I think you consider it. Not saying you do, like, start you, because the thing about this team is they're undersized. Like, when they played against Boston, Boston didn't make them pay in the paint. Like, Al Horford didn't even never really make them pay in the paint. Like, when he would roll, because they would help, that he would always throw it to like a Smart, a Brown, a Derek White, a Grant Williams in the corner. Like, this year, Jokic is making them pay in the paint. And they don't really have size. Like, Cody Zeller was nothing against Jokic. Like, he literally had one play, he put his head down, and Zeller just fell on the stanchion of the goal. So it really wasn't much as you think. So he does ask questions, because he can move his feet. Remember, he has a stop on Curry, even though if it does amount to luck, whatever it is. But Love can do the best he can. But you do have to at one point say, do I consider putting Love in for specifically this matchup? You do have to consider it, because he has finals experience. He understands the moment. And for extra body, you don't want Bam to pick up foul trip, because if Bam goes out, your defense is screwed. Because even if Jokic is in the game, and then even lost Gordon even more if he's at the 5, because they just pick them apart. Because a lot of time when Bam's at the paint, they literally pick them apart on pick and rolls and backdoor cuts. Like when Murray had the dunk at the beginning of the game, and even the first play where they front and Murray got to the basket, Aaron Gordon had a field day, and this is really his series. Him and Michael Porter, this is more their series than Jokic and Jamal Murray. Because if Butler and Bam are not free safety or not, in the paint like that, it can kind of really be, in some ways scary. Before we wrap this up, one more thing to mention with Tyler Hero. That's the only other question I have for Miami right now, is because remember, I think Adrian Wojnarowski reported that he is expected to be back by game 3. And he could be upgraded to available to play for game 2. So now the question is, if you're supposed to, do you bring back Tyler Hero? Because remember, you have Duncan Robinson, Martin, Vincent, Struz, all those guys who stepped up in the absence of him and, Victor Oladipo, unfortunately. But do you bring him in, and then do you mess up their rhythm and flow? Because, again, Struz and them had a bad game. It's like Eric Spoelstra said, they're not going to stop shooting. Their confidence is not going to get to see. Like, they're going to keep shooting. Like, they had one bad night. Like, Struz, I think, if I remember, he was, 0 of 8, 0 of 9. I think the worst anybody shot in the final. No, he's 0 of 10. He was one short, I think, of John Starks, who shot 0 of 11 in the 94 finals against the Rockets. Like, they're going to make shots. And if they don't really make them much in Denver, they're going to make them in Miami. But do you bring him for game 2? So let's just say you go down to, next game. You go back to Miami. You bring him in as a spark plug, because at that point, you're going to need some offense, because he can score. He was really their best scorer outside of Butler and Bam. So he is a spark plug. So now, whose minutes did he take? Did he take Duncan Robinson, who at 6'7", who basically, he was one-dimensional. He just couldn't move his feet defensively. He was just, if he wasn't making shots, he was basically unplayable. So do you put him in? Would you put him in? Like, it's a thought that if you are exposed, you do have to think, because if it works out, it can be successful. But if it doesn't, then you're kind of messing up the flow and the rhythm you have of your group, because Tyler Hero is just talented enough. But the only other concern you do have is defensively as well. Because remember, Benton was getting punished. If Tyler Hero comes back, trust me, Jamal Murray and every guy on that Nuggets team, they're going to punish him in pick and roll. And they're going to definitely make sure that Aaron Gordon has a field day with him. So that's the other concern you have. But at the end of the day, his offense matters to this Miami Heat team because they lack shot creation. And that was one of the main things, like with this team that I worry about, is like the lack of shot creation because they don't have it. Like Jimmy does it, Tyler Hero, like Gabe Vincent has really become that guy. Caleb Martin has become that guy. But these aren't guys that you in a game, 7 in a game, one of the finals are expecting. They're gonna have their moments, of course. But if they got to be that guy to do it in a 7-game series, that's just hard to expect. Like and Isaiah Thomas would be great for this moment. Kemba Walker, Trey Burke. And I'm not just gonna, before we wrap this up, I really wish that Carmelo Anthony, like he just announced retirement, and salute to the great Melo. And congratulations to him in his career. I wish he was part of this Denver team. If he was just there for a minimum, like he really could be here for that championship run. Because it would be great to see Melo get one ring. And the crazy part is, Jokic wears 15 and he wears 15. I really do hope that they do retire both their numbers, because I think they'd be the first one to have the same number. That would be great to see. So that's the main thing. But in the day, I expect Spoelstra.
Someone is at the front door.
I expect Spoelstra to respond and do what he do and things of that nature. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a great series to watch. Mike Malone, Eric Spoelstra, because they're the long, tenured coaches. I expect them to do. But if you heard something, there's probably an echo dot. Just ignore that. But that's how, truly, that's how this series is going to be. This is actually going to be an entertaining series because you're seeing Denver's great offense versus Miami's great defense. And Miami can win games. All they got to do is take the next game at home. Because if you remember the first game they took in Milwaukee, they took the one in New York, and they took the one in Boston. And Mike Malone, for the game, was wired up. He was saying they took those first. They're not going to take the first one here. All Miami needs is one. And then even if they don't get it in Denver, they can literally get one, and they can get them in Miami. But if they're gonna win this year, they're gonna have to get one anyway in Denver, because Denver is undefeated at home. So, and that altitude is some serious. You could just see the fatigue kicking in on Miami and every team that comes into. But that's gonna wrap it up for this finals game one recap. This was a great finals. Like, to watch this final, this isn't the most exciting one, but it's great to see different people because, again, Jokic winning this, it puts him up there in the pedestal of the great centers, and then Butler, it just really solidifies the impact he's had to Miami since LeBron, James and Dwayne Wade. But this is gonna be a great series. I don't think this might end sooner than expected. Crazily, because if Miami doesn't, because like if you're Miami, it's hard to say what can you do, because size wise you're just limited. Scoring wise you're limited, and even with Tyler Hero coming back, that's just not enough. You just gotta hope like you make enough shots. Like Luck has a fortune too, but if we don't make shots against this team defensively, we're gonna struggle. We're gonna fight either way, but ultimately it comes down to shot making, because can we have someone that goes toe to toe shot making with Jamal Murray? Right now we know, and even Tyler Hero comes back, that's a 20 to like 15. That's like a 5-10 point differential. If we come back and do make shots defensively, how can we stop? Because there's nothing you really can do to stop Denver. They're just a well-oiled machine. If Jokic at the top of the key, you have Murray, Powell, Pope, Porter, and Gordon. Like, they just have a great five-man starting lineup. And then they only play, like I said, Bruce Brown played, and he was great. Jeff Green played. They only play 7-8 guys. And their five-man rotation plays most of the game, where it's like, it's really scary what, this group can be. Because, again, the only person that might lead this summer is Bruce freaking Brown. And even that, they still, if the West remains how it's remaining, they're really a favorite to go every single year. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of NBA Finals. So make sure, again, you just keep tuning in to Q Hoops. We're going to keep having more content coming out. We're going to get into, coaching carousel that's been going on, off-season preview. I'm going to get into my Lakers, of course, and preview what they could do this summer, the whole Kyrie talk. We're going to get into all these topics. So make sure you just hit that like button, subscribe, and we're going to keep getting content. Just get better every single episode. And that's all I got for you today. We out.